the squeaking effort of sneakers on a gym floor, my mother's closed eyes when she laughs, my siblings' huddled whispers, the sun warming the cobbles on Worcester Street, the sound of skin sticking to a summer banister, the air on my face as I run down the street. The flavor won't come out. When the sun starts to set, my dread grows. Night pulls people apart. The shorter days mean shallow countdown starts sooner, and the darkening sky is like the subway doors. Even if you stick your hand in the way, they still close. Friday, the worst day of the week. I keep getting crushed by life's revolving doors. No one tries to save me because it's all invisible to them. No one else sees how hard the world keeps pressing against me. Well, maybe Kara, but she's only 11. I hold Kara's hand and she rubs her thumb back and forth across my skin, which means she loves me. 2 Fridays ago, on a dad weekend, Kara's friend Marcy Klein was kidnapped. Everyone tried to keep it from me because they knew I'd be scared, but I heard about it anyway. My mom talked about it on the phone, and teachers whispered about it at school, and my friends told me what happened. What happened was Marcy was on the bus going to school when her babysitter stopped the bus and said there was an emergency and Marcy had to come with her. The emergency was that Marcy's mom was in the hospital, so of course Marcy went with her. But the babysitter lied. Her mom wasn't sick. Instead, Marcy's babysitter took her to a place of ransom and hid her until her dad dropped off a bag of big money inside the Pan Am building where Karen Silkwood was murdered. 10 hours passed before her parents got her back. I was glad she was found, but it's the in-between part I can't stop thinking about. The part when Marcy realized they weren't going to the hospital and she didn't know what was going to happen. When she didn't know if she'd ever see her mom again. During is the scariest part. I know if someone came to my school and said my mom was in the hospital, I'd go with them too. Why would a person use moms in such a terrible way? Would my babysitter do that to me? When someone is kidnapped, they're stolen from their regular world without any warning. My mom said that kind of thing is very rare, but I feel kidnapped when my dad comes and takes us away from my mom, and that happens all the time.
I'm gonna look at the clock, and when my time is up.
Okay, but what I wanted to say was that when I asked Patty if her new book is a memoir, she told me everything I write is sort of a memoir and sort of not. I didn't want to say.
I did mean to write a book about my mother. My great, wonderful friend, Roz Chess, she's wonderfully talented, and I were online with this group of people that we waste all day emailing, and somebody said, oh, my parents never taught me anything. I thought, all my mother did was tell me what to do and what not to do. So I listed a few things, and Roz said, if you come up with some more, I'll illustrate them. So I did, and that's the book, and it's coming out actually in April. I thought it was coming out in May, which would give me more time to tell my mother that I wrote this. As soon as this is pretty much true, which you would think is a given it's a memoir, but with me it's not always a given. As soon as I stopped with the baby talk and was capable enough in English, he taught me how to read and then gave me books unsuitable for my age. How old were you when you read the Tin Crosby story about a 3-year-old who decides to stop growing as told by his adult self in a mental asylum? I was 8. I don't like being the center of attention. Well, I kind of do. And I don't like to break the rules and getting in trouble. And I was doing all of it, and it was really fun. I mean, it was fun because the great thing about writing journalism, the kind I do, which is, participatory and for laughs, mostly, is the worse it is, the easier it is to write about. And that is the great thing about writing. I mean, even if you're writing a memoir, it's so much. Like when I do it like a story, I think maybe I'll get hurt and in the hospital, and then the story will write itself. Never thought I would ever get a job or planned to get a job, and everyone complained all the time about working 24 hours a day. Peer group pressure is operative for me, so I complain too, but really I was thinking, make us work Sunday too, I love this. I just loved everything. There were a couple other women on the staff then, and the producer was a woman. So, and I was on my college year magazine, which was all boys. And so I was kind of used to it. I didn't really have a raised feminist consciousness. so I didn't have that. Like, when I went to college, if you remember, it was like 5 boys to 1 girl.
I
And,
thought that was normal.
well, no, because I remember, and there was this kind of, like, we should get the ratio changed, and but they didn't even want 1-to-1, they wanted 2.1, it was like pi to 1. And our friend Sarah, we were in the freshman union, we've got to fight for getting it to 2.18933 to 1. And she said, look at this, everybody looks at us when we come in. First of all, she's 6'2". Nobody could see me. So she said, we can't, and there are too many men here. I said, that's why I came here. So, I had a good time. I didn't realize till afterward, I should have said I had a bad time, but I had a good time.
Basically, after writing my first novel, I started my second novel, and it was essentially about intelligence testing, which my book is about a lot, and anxiety, and I was like, oh, this is my own story, this is annoying, like, I have to start another book. So I started another book, and sure enough, it all sort of seeped back in, and that happened many times, and I just thought, okay, maybe this is not a novel. Maybe it's something else, so I started to just get it out of my system and write this other thing, and I had this other material I was working with, intelligence tests and evaluations from the intelligence test, having to do with testing throughout my entire childhood that I wanted to use, and so I thought, well, I'll just see what happens. I'll use this material, this source material, and it just became its own thing, and I thought, okay, fine, you win. I'll write you. So I wrote it, and then never doing that again. Done. Last one.
Why not?
Oh, it's so traumatizing. It's so painful. It took 4.5 years. I've been depressed a lot in my life, but I've never had like concentrated periods of depression stemming from writing a memoir. It's very specific. It just was really difficult I had to re-experience panic and anxiety in order to write it. Like even the countdown that I read, I had to sink into that in order to remember exactly, was it a vibration, was it a color, so even that was traumatizing. And when I read that for the first time ever, that was traumatizing. Now it's fine, but so it just feels like, I can't do that again. But I'm sure in 5 years I'll be like,
And did you, other than Marcy Cloy, and we know how she's okay about
She's
the
fine.
memoir, but did you worry about the
yes.
people that you wrote about? Because
I
that's
did.
what I couldn't get over. I'm
Well,
fine
I
with
was
the trauma of
very,
writing.
very kind. I don't have that, and
That is a theme in your book, in the childhood,
Yeah.
your mother lying to you
Yeah,
and making things worse.
right. And I don't want to be that person in the world. I want to be a person in the world to say, you know what? Nope. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Here's what happens. This is what happens in life, and I'm fine. I don't care. But it took me a long time to not care, because it's more exposing that I had panic attacks that was hard for me. That was the most vulnerable thing. Other things that people are like, how did you say that? I'm like, oh, is that wrong? Like, is that hard? I don't know, something's wrong with me, so.